All right, on the defense, Leger, who you got for us?
So this will be interesting, right? I think Ryan will like my three guys. Maybe not. Maybe so. Femi Oladejo. Me and Ryan were talking about this guy at the Senior Bowl.
Penn State.
Honestly, guys, I wouldn't be mad if this guy went in the back of the first round. He is a freak athlete. Yep. You turn on that Penn State game, good Lord, he gave them nightmares. Like him and a guy I'm going to talk about next, literally were singly the reason why they were in that game.
I don't want to name names, but number 72 had a long afternoon.
He did. Very long afternoon. And the thing about Oladejo, it's kind of like Abdul Carter. He was an inside backer. It's his first year on the edge. Mm-hmm. So you talk about the upside being there. And then at the Senior Bowl, he showed his versatility. Guys, in one-on-ones, he did one-on-ones with the D-line at edge, then went inside at the 3 technique. And you know what he did after that, Ryan?
What?
He went and covered backs out of the backfield as he was a linebacker. So when you talk about a Swiss Army knife that you can put in multiple positions that literally is just coming into his own on the edge position, I think his upside is out of this world.
So we talked to him at the Senior Bowl. You talked about it. He was off ball.
Yeah.
And the reason he moved was because they had so many dudes, and one of the guys you're about to talk about in the linebackers room, he said, let me try this. Like he's Abdul Carter and Micah Parsons. Cal transfer, he's super smart. We talked to him at 6:45 in the morning. I've never met anyone so juiced up at that time, and you saw it on the field.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing, and I think we were sitting together.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike T was talking about. Mike Tomlin was talking about before practice.
Yeah, and Mike usually knows. Cool story. Senior Bowl a few years ago, Mike Tomlin was talking to Will McDonald on the side and said, I was out there on the field and he was like, I watched every one of your spin moves. Will McDonald ended up going in the first round that year.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people
right after
they took Broderick Jones.
Mike T be knowing. So I would not be surprised. Listen to the name, Femi Oladejo gets into the back of that first round because, again, his upside is out of this world.
Well, and I do think in today's NFL that type of player, so the guy who can drop into coverage, the guy who can be an inside linebacker but then rush the passer like an edge rusher, or be an edge rusher but then drop into coverage like an inside linebacker, is becoming more in vogue than it was, say, 5 or 6 years ago, because the way defenses are setting up, because the proliferation of these hybrid fronts around the NFL where everyone wants to create confusion and basically have these answers for these multiple offenses. They're becoming multiple defenses. This is a guy that makes you a multiple defense because, well, he can do every single thing you want in the front seven. So, would not surprise me.
Next guy, I'm talking about his teammate. Ryan kind of alluded to it. And I don't think people are talking about this guy enough. Carson Schlesinger.
Yeah.
I love Jalen Walker. Love Jad Campbell. Those guys are more linebackers, but they can play on the edge as well. Mm-hmm. From a pure stand-up linebacking position, he's my linebacker 1.
Okay.
Sweet mercy alive.
All I got to say is I talked about Femi Oladejo in that Penn State game. Go turn on the tape and watch Carson Schlesinger in that game. I mean, the instincts this kid plays for. Let's not forget, this guy was a former walk-on. Right? He had to get it the hard way. And he's really developed and become an All-American, right?
Which is wild because he's going to test well.
He's going to test really well.
He's not,
All right, Dr. Speed, what we got?
No, I mean, low 4.6s probably.
That's moving.
That's great for him. That's what I'm saying. Like,
that's moving.
It's crazy to me that people aren't talking about this kid. Like, when I watch the tape, to me, like, when you're talking about just pure stand-up inside linebacker, he's my number 1 guy. Like, again, the instincts that I see, again, Jalen Walker's a heck of an athlete. Right, we saw versus Texas him get on the edge and get 3 sacks, and a lot of times I think at stand-up backer he's just feeling his way through. Right, same thing with Jad Campbell.
Yep,
Schlesinger knows where the ball is going to be. His instincts and the way he studies tape, you can tell like he's fully prepared. He's got a little dog in him too. That Penn State game, he's talking trash every single play he made. I love that. Right, so again, pure stand-up linebacker, inside linebacker. He's my number 1 guy.
One thing, and he's like in the 220s, right?
Yeah.
One thing that I've come to, I don't want to say realize, but like believe strongly, especially at the linebacker position, it is not about size. It is about how they play it.
Yeah.
There will be, I'm blanking on who's the Bills linebacker, the one, Terrell Bernard.
Okay.
That guy comes downhill and hits.
And he's not the biggest guy either.
350-pound offensive lineman like he's the bigger guy.
Correct.
He's 215 pounds. Him coming out, I was like, he's 250 pounds. What's he going to do at the NFL level now? He's like a productive player. Those are the guys you want the guys who play physical linebacker, not necessarily the guys who just look like they should be physical. The 235-pounders who don't want to play through contact, you don't want those guys. You can take a 216-pounder. If that guy wants to hit, that guy can play linebacker in the league.
Yep. Last guy. I put Ryan on this guy early in the offseason. Zay Fraser, corner from UTSA. Now, he'll get the comparisons to Reek Willen because they went to the same school, and that's lazy. Reek Willen was a receiver and then moved to corner. Zay Fraser, this is kind of like his first year actually starting in that system. Had the pleasure of talking to him. I'll tell you this, guys. After week 6, and I love Jade Barron, I don't know if there was a corner that played with more confidence than this kid.
And we talked about confidence.
Like, I don't know if there was a kid that played with more confidence. The way he was able to read passing concepts, to understand in zone coverage what he could get away with, what he can get away with. And, Mike, you talk about speed. This guy's going to test out of this world. I talked to his head coach, Jeff Traylor, and he said, would not be surprised if he runs 4.2 something.
Ooh. You believe that?
Turn on the Temple tape, and me and Rod, I sent Rod this clip earlier this offseason. It was cover 3, and he got left in the middle of the field by the middle field safety. And he literally tracked the ball 40 yards in the air and high pointed and got the interception. When the receiver was like 15 yards ahead of him, he came and ran him down and took the ball away from him. Like, he's going to be a special athlete, and he's going to test out of this world. And do not be surprised by the end of the combine, people talk about him potentially going in the second round.
I think Mike and I were standing at the corner of the sidelines of the Shrine Bowl, and he will chirp. He's
an aggressive corner now.
He was doing a lot of talking.
Yeah.
And to your point about confidence, he lacked none of.
No.
And to me, cornerback, I like fast corners. Yeah. And I don't like the 40 for a lot of positions.
For corner?
I walk 40 for corner because regardless of how good you are, you will be behind a wide receiver in the NFL. You will be 2 yards behind. You'll have bitten on a double move. You have lost at the line of scrimmage, and you have to make up that ground at some point in time. If you run a 4.2 something,
it helps.
That makes your life a lot easier.
Yeah.
You can get away with a lot of mishaps if you can fly. So I like those guys.
Yeah.
Speaking of 4.2, my guy, Jad Campbell.
I talked about him a little bit earlier.
I don't know if he's going to run a 4.2, but you talk about the freakish athleticism.
Yeah.
Alabama, off-ball linebacker / moving wherever you wanted. I don't know if you call him tweener or whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
But the juice with which this young man plays, and I actually have him ranked ahead of Jalen Walker, and I love both those guys, but just thinking long,
I'm not mad at that, though.
Up the road productivity, because, again, he's only going to get better, and we talk about Abdul Carter and even Femi Oladejo in terms of them being new to the position. I feel like this guy's probably going to get bigger and stronger and maybe even faster, and then once he continues to get more, and he plays pretty instinctive, but as he learns the game, I feel like he could just be a difference maker.
Where do you think his best position at the next level will be?
What do you think?
I used to Mike that in a blitz heavy scheme.
They put him on the edge of Bama too, though.
Right. I mean, like, he gives you that versatility, but like I think he was good enough as a pure middle linebacker. He looked instinctive enough that, like, Jalen Walker, his tape at off-ball linebacker was fine. Jad Campbell's tape as just a pure middle linebacker was very good.
But he could add 15 pounds, so it feels like his frame might be.
Yeah.
And then
he is a unique athlete. He could play.
Could you see him in like a Frankie Louvu type role? Remember, the Washington Commanders on third down, they put him on the edge to rush. But on first and second down, he's their interior linebacker.
When you have a guy that can be that disruptive anywhere, you got to use what you have.
Use the skill set they have.
Those are the off-ball linebackers I'm willing to take highly. I think your Quay Walkers of the world, your guys who aren't high-end blitzers, they just don't give you that ROI at the next level in today's NFL. The guys who are really different animals are the ones who, when it's a third down, they are a weapon for you as a blitzer. That's the guys I'll take in the first round because they don't. A guy with his skill set isn't on the board in the third round. It just isn't. A guy who's that athletic at linebacker that can blitz like he does, it ain't on the board in the third round.
Next up, Nick Emenwari, safety out of
Love
South Carolina.
guy.
I don't think I'm speaking out of school, but our buddy Brian McFadden, obviously two-time Super Bowl champ, cornerback. He was the number one cornerback coming out of high school, by the way. On his way to Florida State.
He was.
This is his cornerback or defensive back one, discounting Travis Hunter. Like if Travis Hunter's a wide receiver, for example.
So ahead of Malachi Starks from Georgia.
Head of Malachi, head of Will Johnson.
Head of Jade.
Head of Zay.
I'm not mad at that. I gave you a call about this guy.
He is. So, he's built like a guy that probably you feel like would be stiff, playing sort of the tweener role.
Yeah.
He is so fluid. The ball skills are insane. He's incredibly instinctive. I don't know if it's the LSU game. There's a game that I can't remember who they were playing, that he was always around the ball, had at least one interception, and then he will knock your teeth out. So I said to you, like, if you told me he was going to the end of the first round to the Bills, sign me up for that all day long.
I love that fit.
That they would probably run that card in if he's still there.
He'd be bigger than their linebackers.
I called Ryan about him, and I was like, Do you think he makes that transition to Will? But it's like when I turn
Why?
the tape on, it's like he
No,
doesn't need
no.
to.
Right.
You want that speed on the back end. He's too fast.
He's like Cam Chancellor, but just a better athlete a little
Yeah.
bit. Which that's no disrespect from Cam Chancellor. He's a heck of a player.
And that's a huge compliment,
Yeah.
right? Absolutely. And
There
Cam was
aren't-
a
you
day
can probably
3
count
guy?
on one hand
Yeah,
the
he's
amount of
fourth
safeties in
round.
the NFL that are faster than Amanda Warner
Yeah.
right now. Like,
Oh,
he's
that's
just
right.
like,
He's
that
gonna
guy
move, right?
is going to fly. Yeah. So
And my last guy is defensive lineman out of Maryland, Jordan Phillips.
Love his game.
Talked to him at the Shrine Bowl, and you don't hear this a lot. Maybe you do, Lijay. It's usually offensive lineman. He was a wrestler,
Okay.
and he understands leverage.
Yep.
And he uses his hands well, and he plays with a little twitch for a big man.
He does.
And he's an incredibly smart young man, and he's focused on ball. So a lot of things you don't have to worry about in terms of once you get away from practice in the facility. And I thought he had a good week in Frisco at the Shrine Bowl, and then his tape I really liked a lot.
he's one of those guys that you immediately, from his stance, you're like, okay, he's different because his stance is about an inch and a half off the ground. His ass gets so much lower than everyone else. He's so flexible for a nose tackle.
That wrestling background.
And then the guy for 320, he is about as cut up a 320 as I've
Yes,
ever seen. The guy
he ain't
has
soft.
not a lot of body fat on him at a defense acquisition.
I would say a guy that's probably in the same realm with him and that me and Ryan like too as well, CJ West.
Oh, I
from
love CJ
Indiana.
West.
Yeah. And
I got them kind of like in the same
It is.
area.
This
of the draft.
class is so deep.
CJ West 5th year, Jordan Phillips 3rd year coming out. He could have been like as good as CJ West if he just stayed. I feel like he almost went too early because I thought that guy, if he stayed around, could have been a first rounder.
Probably.
He's that talented, but because he is raw when he watches tape.
But he's
the
day
guy's
2. It
impressive.
feels like all day long,
he's
right?
gonna be a
Hey,
day
you know,
two,
always
so.
with the youth, they're gonna what your projection is gonna be. That's gonna probably take you up around.
All right, my list. I'm going to start with James Pierce, Tennessee edge rusher, just because I think he could do something insane in the 40. I watched this guy track down screens, and it's like he might
a
run the
freak
4
athlete.
threes. The guy is truly special in that regard, but I want to see his 3-cone. I want to see his lateral agility because I know he's a linearly incredible athlete. But I watch his tape, and I'm like, he reminds me of Leonard Floyd, where it's just like he needs get a little bit stronger because his bull rush dies too often, and 2, he just needs like a way to get through offensive linemen's hands more. He has to win basically completely clean, or else he doesn't win at all. And those guys I kind of worry about. So I want to see his lateral agility. Does he have that potential to grow?
I think he's pretty bendy. Do you or no?
I don't think he's. I think he's a little tall on the taller end and doesn't like sink the way your 6'2" edge rushers sink off the edge. So
I think he's
that's
real
what-
efficient with his hands when it
Yes.
comes down to it.
He
But
plays
I would
way
agree. I
bigger
don't
than
think
245.
he's more bendy than Mike Green. Obviously not.
Oh, come
Bill
on now.
Carter.
Mike Green, Abdul Carter, those guys are like
Yeah.
the best in the class. Jalen Walker,
Yeah.
like those are different animals, but they're all 6'2", 6'3". It's easier to
Correct.
bend when you're shorter. So 6'5", James Pierce, it's difficult. Next one, Will Johnson.
All right, Dr. Speed.
Loved Will Johnson coming into this season. I think we both had him number 1 overall, right?
Yep. But I want to
17
know.
catches in 12 games last year, 16 in 6 games this past year. He was not as good this past year. He looked checked out,
Foot
in my
injury.
opinion, comparatively. He had the foot injury. I don't know if he's going to test here or whatnot.
Oh, okay. So he might have run.
I don't know after the
I think he
crypto.
needs to.
But he needs to at some point pre-draft because I don't see. So Darren Arnold went 4.5 last year. I think he's around that
I was
or
going to
slower.
say. Yeah. So if he runs a 4.52, he's a first round pick though, right?
He still is.
Depending on the medical, I would think.
Hard. He's bigger. He wins in different ways, right? 6'2", 205. Like
And I think Sertan ran in the 4.3s.
Sertan ran high 4.3s.
Yeah.
That year's class, J.C. Horn, but that was the COVID year where they both did pro day 4.3s.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Right.
So,
So,
take it with a grain of salt, but still they're much faster than Will Johnson. So,
but
a
his
lot of people-
tape is his
tape's
23
so good.
tape is
23
insane.
tape was
It's
so
out of control. I would say even the Fresno tape was really good. That was earlier on in the season,
Yeah, the
though.
pick six.
Yeah, exactly.
But he won against Marvin Harrison Jr. He won against Roma Dunze.
Yeah.
He won against Isaiah Bond and
Yeah, his 23 tape was crazy.
what's his face? Jermaine Burton. Like he went against some dudes and 17 catches in 12 games.
Do you kind of put him in like the Derek Stingley Jr.? Because remember coming out that year, people were wondering would Sauce go before him?
Yeah.
But the Texans took, I guess, essentially the upside
Yes.
of what Will John or Derek Stingley Jr. is going to be.
And they
overtaking Sauce. They hit. They definitely hit.
Yeah, he could be this year's guy in that mold where it's like this past year's tape, we're throwing it out the window and relying on the 2023 tape. But you got to run faster than, if he goes over 4.55, you're in pretty rarefied air to still go top 15.
Correct.
Not a lot of guys have worked out that have been drafted at a high level.
Let's say he runs a 4.5.
Was the.
Would you rather have him as a Packers fan or Jade Barron?
Ooh.
I'd rather have Will Johnson. I still think.
Okay. All right. So you're not going too far down the road.
I still think he can play press coverage.
Yeah, because as a
I
Steelers
love
fan,
Barron, though. I don't know.
Barron's good.
I love them both.
But I love Barron, his versatility and playing the slot, and they already have Javon Bullard as the Packers, so that's why I
because the Steelers fan, I would take Will Johnson and pair him opposite Joey Porter Jr. and hopefully get fewer penalty calls and then, go from there. But, yeah, those are good problems to have, I suppose.
And my last one, Deone Walker, the Kentucky defensive tackle. The man needs a W. He had about as bad a year from a draft perspective. He went from 51 pressures as a sophomore to 22 this past year.
Yeah.
Supposedly had a back injury. I think he just he was tired a lot of the game's injury. The guy's second half of games really wore down, but he's 6'7" and a half, 350. The guy's a unique specimen. He needs to go out here, be a little trimmer, be spry, test like you're a freak athlete. I don't think he has a chance to go in the first round anymore, just based off of the Senior Bowl, based off his tape.
Yep.
But man, this guy is too uniquely gifted for a man that size to just be a nothing in the NFL. So I still think there's something to be had
right.
there.
When you see half the productivity, and Mike touched on it, has to be an injury, I would imagine. You think otherwise?
It's tough, right? Could be an injury. Could it be? That's the thing. That's the knock been on him. He turns it on when he wants to, right? And when he turns it on, he's almost he's unblockable.
That size, for sure.
But is he going to be consistent in doing that? I remember we were watching at the Senior Bowl. I know a lot of people were like, I don't really see it from him. And then I remember the very next play, tight back drill, he splits a double team, gets a sack, and I'm like, y'all sure you're not high on this guy? That's the thing, as far as Mike said, guys aren't coming out the womb 6'7", 350, but can actually rush the passer.
Yep.
He can do that.
And off the edge, too. The guy line up as a stand-up outside linebacker and still win. It's
he's like a freak athlete for somebody that
feels
size.
like the defensive version of DeJuan Jones. Whereas you find that guy once in a lifetime and you're like, all right, you need to put it together and not be a fourth-round pick, and you end up being a fourth-round pick and actually playing pretty well when you're healthy.